Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and today we're taking another look at some absolutely massive winter sale deals for you to take advantage of. As always, my focus remains on more strategic and tactical games, from 4X to turn-based tactics to city building and more. And if you'd like to see more great deals in those genres, I'll have a separate video linked in the pinned comments down below. But this video is dedicated to games you can currently pick up for under or just around 10 bucks. Now, with no more time to waste on an intro, and with timestamps down below, let's begin. Sweet Transit is a wonderful transport tycoon / city building game with a gorgeous aesthetic and more depth than first meets the eye. I've recommended this game before on the channel. It's worth full price, so on sale, it's an even easier game to recommend, especially with some of the post-launch updates that were made. The game is set during the early days of trains, and you'll find yourself establishing multiple cities, as well as the train lines that connect them and the agricultural and industrial needs between them. Workers and their needs determine what you'll want to build in your city and the kinds of resources you'll pursue, going hand in hand like in most city builders, only this time with the added logistics of managing the more intricate elements of a rail network. You'll need to build up a train depot, you'll need to lay down tracks, you need to build stations and place signals to ensure your trains can properly navigate junctions, and you'll need to actually purchase and design trains, picking locomotives and cars, and then you'll need to plan routes to optimize the pickup and drop-off of goods and workers alike, sprawling across the massive procedurally generated maps as you do so. Sweet Transit finds a sweet balance between realism and gaminess that keeps things interesting and challenging, and I think it's well worth checking out on sale especially. Nebuchadnezzar has come a long way since it was first released, adding a lot of interesting mechanics and challenges that were missing at launch, and I can definitely recommend picking it up, especially at this low price point. If you ever played the classic Sierra city builders like Pharaoh, Zeus, or Caesar, this one will make you feel right at home, but in a slightly different setting: ancient Mesopotamia. You'll manage all the familiar aspects of a city in this kind of game, building residences whose occupants all have different needs to fulfill in order to keep them around and upgrade the buildings themselves, fulfilling said needs by establishing farms, mines, potters, and all manner of other agricultural and industrial production chains, while also building markets to help distribute the products, wells to bring water, and religious structures, decorative buildings, and monuments to fulfill less tangible desires too. As with the classics, you'll play across multiple maps, each with their own objectives and logistical challenges, and all in all, you'll get a solid amount of playtime out of an experience that's been refined over time. If you didn't grab it at launch and you're a fan of these kinds of games like, again, Pharaoh, Zeus, and Caesar, now is a great time to grab Nebuchadnezzar. Suzerain is a game that I bring up fairly regularly as a pretty standout title. It's a unique gameplay experience in this space as a text-based RPG with an excellent narrative full of twists and turns and a variety of endings, all designed to ask you if you'd really do a good job being the president of a country. In Suzerain, you take over as the first-time president of a relatively fledgling nation in an alternate world. The country is beset by all manner of problems, from external threats to internal political turmoil, impending recession, sectarian violence, and much more of that fun stuff, and you need to make it to the end of your first term as a popular enough president, solving as many of those problems as possible, however you deem is the right way to go about doing so, all in the interest of getting re-elected. Along the way, though, you'll have to make countless moral decisions, and otherwise pick what's best for the country, or perhaps what's best for yourself and your family. The game really lets you play quite freely. You can be a power-hungry autocrat, a greedy, bribe-taking demagogue, or a man who does truly want what's best for his country, whatever that might mean based on his personal political biases. Set during a 50s analog in this alternate world, you've got two major power blocks: espionage, new political ideologies, diplomatic missions, and much more to work on, including education, healthcare, and much more besides. All this is done with top-notch writing and twists that you'll want to re-experience as a different kind of president and person each time. Suzerain is definitely worth picking up. Frostpunk is always an easy recommendation to make, as it really sets the bar for a very specific kind of survival city builder, and I can't think of any other title that's been able to strike that same chord since, and not for lack of trying. Set during an apocalyptic ice age that has frozen the world during the Victorian era, you lead a small group of people in building up their home city around a massive generator, using it to power homes, production facilities, research capabilities, and perhaps most importantly, heat sources. Satisfying your people's needs is essential in keeping them going, Doing poorly will drop the people's sense of hope, ultimately bringing an end to your time in charge if it drops too low. But hope isn't just based on having food to eat and a fire to warm themselves by, but also the various laws you pass for your city, balancing a wildly spinning moral compass against the demands of running a city. Allowing child labor will certainly upset folks and make for less safe work environments, but the extra pairs of hands in the workforce, regardless of how small they might be, could help keep the coal flowing, which will keep the heat going. Adjusting rations, setting policies for end-of-life care, and generally balancing needs versus wants becomes an interesting balance, and you'll get outsiders wanting to join from time to time, or you'll send parties out to explore the frosty countryside in the hopes of finding more resources or, yes, perhaps survivors. Frostpunk can be a challenging game, and the DLC helps tell the full story, or at least the full story until the sequel releases next year. Siege survival Gloria Victis is most quickly described as a medieval This War of Mine. Set in the medieval era, you play as a small group of survivors within the castle walls, trying your best to, as the title suggests, survive the ongoing siege. The loop is split into two halves. During the day, you're hiding behind your walls, gathering resources, and preparing supplies to support your small group as well as the defending army, and during the night, you go out and about, sneaking around in the massive city with the hopes of finding more survivors to aid your cause or additional resources to work with. The balance of the two sets of systems works quite nicely here, and overall, Siege Survival Gloria Victis is an underappreciated title. If you didn't grab it at launch, I can definitely suggest picking it up on sale to sink a handful of hours into. Warhammer 40k Mechanicus remains one of my favorite games set in the Warhammer 40k universe, needing little knowledge of the lore to enjoy this excellent turn-based tactics game. Featuring two factions that are, in my humble opinion, woefully underrepresented in video games, Mechanicus puts you in charge of the titular Adeptus Mechanicus, machine god-worshipping humans who have sacrificed much flesh and humanity in service of their patron. On the flip side, the antagonist Necrons consists of an ancient empire now immortalized and turned into robots, resting in their eternal tomb until your crew decides to go knocking. The game features 3 layers of strategy and tactics, starting with the need to manage upgrades and equipment for your units, picking missions, and making progress against what is essentially a doomsday clock, followed by the dungeon diving that happens when you pick a mission, exploring the aforementioned tombs, interacting with various events, and making decisions not just on which paths to take through the tombs, but what to do with the things you come across as you do so. Again, time is a factor, as the more turns you take while diving through the dungeon, the harder the battles and the missions actually get, signaling how more Necrons are waking up by the minute due to your disturbances. Finally, the turn-based combat itself has some really innovative ideas with cool weapons, really interesting enemies, and a 100% hit chance that means you never have to worry about missing a shot, only about lining them up nicely without giving the AI the opportunity to do the same. Mechanicus is a fantastic game with amazing sound design, a beautiful OST, a solid storyline, and great mechanics worth diving into, whether you're a fan of 40k or not. Necesse is currently 50% off, just about $5, and if you're looking for a top-down colony management / survival crafting game, this one's got you covered. Heads up, I am affiliated with the publisher Hooded Horse, and for more details on that, you can check out the video linked in the description below. But of course, the inclusion of Necesse in here has nothing to do with that. You can see the positive response the game has had from countless others. Necesse can either be played alone or with friends, and you can even host servers of up to 50 or more players if you'd like, with each player able to harvest resources, craft items, build structures, recruit and organize settlers to help automate some of these processes, and travel around the infinite, procedurally generated world to go on grand quests and slay terrifying beasts of all kinds. There's an element of automation to your colony construction, including, again, telling settlers what they should store and where, and otherwise equipping them for threats that seek you out rather than the other way around. Crafting equipment is a joy, especially because of the massive variety in melee, ranged, and magical weapons, alongside a huge selection of cosmetic and functional armor, mounts, potions, and magical trinkets. There are so many different ways to kit yourself out, and the latest update from a few weeks ago just added the ability to take characters across saves. So if you want to use a kitted out single player character in multiplayer with some friends on their server, and then bring them back to your single player game, keeping all the acquired equipment through the process, you can do so. The game is very smart in how it scales difficulty to match the player count, and even if playing solo, you can summon and arm townsfolk to join your questing at the risk of their lives. There's lots to explore with Necesse, from creative enemies to cool gear, and the price makes it an easy recommendation. Dorfromantik brings our list to a slightly cozier note. This city builder is, in some ways, more a puzzle game, as it's entirely built around laying down tiles in a way that results in adjacent groupings to build not just cities and hamlets, but entire countrysides. There's something uniquely charming about this game, and though it's not the one you'll play when you want to crunch numbers and optimize production chains, it's an easy one to pop on from time to time to sink a few hours into, and the next thing you know, you've clocked up quite some time laying out rivers, tracks, woodlands, and towns of various sizes based on what you can pull off. You're almost pulled into two directions, as on the one hand, you want to build the prettiest landscape you can, featuring the biggest river, the biggest forest, the biggest fields, but you also want to one-up your previous high score while unlocking new tile types to use. It might certainly feel like a bit of an outlier on this list, but if you want a change of pace without completely abandoning these genres, Dorfromantik is the perfect pick. Disco Elysium remains one of the most enthralling RPGs I've ever played, featuring deep characters, a strong plot, and a skill check system that isn't just unique, but dare I say, perfect. For what Disco Elysium is trying to be, that is, where each skill is a fragment of your inner personality, literally talking to you, providing you with suggestions or subconscious thought as you engage in conversation and decision-making. Not only that, having skills too high will often influence your character in harmful ways. Having a high authority stat, for example, will help you put your foot down, sure, but sometimes it'll make you put your foot down when doing so will directly put you in harm's way. You play a washed-up detective in an alternate fantasy world dealing with post-war trauma, class violence, and a general veneer of being a hellhole. Waking up with the worst hangover humanity has ever witnessed, you're suffering from amnesia, and you find yourself not just in the middle of a crime scene that needs solving, but a mystery about who you yourself are and what the world around you is. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's quite the ride, full of all sorts of surprises, all excellently written and told. There's little action in this RPG, and so it arguably falls outside of my usual umbrella of genres, but the problem solving, the puzzles, and the piecing together of facts brings it right back in. Disco Elysium will bring you an experience you can't easily find elsewhere. It is unique in the best possible way and still worth full price. Grab it on sale without any hesitation. Kingdom Come Deliverance is another one of those rare RPGs that, in my humble opinion, kinda came through and changed everything, so to speak. An immersive story, great visuals, and an interesting historical setting are all well and good, but there's almost a life sim aspect to how leveling up works, and that made it all feel significant in ways many RPGs don't, intentionally so. You just play as a smith's son here, when your entire town is attacked and burned to the ground by foreign invaders. You've lost your home, your family, your everything, and if there's ever a good way to get somebody to join the fight, well, that's it. And so you do, engaging in all manner of side and personal quests, as you also participate in the cleaning up of the countryside, engaging with local bandits and foreign scouts and camps alike, diving into massive battles from time to time too. You improve your skills by using them, so to be a better swordsman, for example, you'll need to fight with a sword, through the rough parts of being really bad at it, into excellence. Many RPGs take this approach nowadays, sure, but the first-person perspective and the fact that you actually control the sword swings, or pike or spear or bow and arrow, really changes how it all feels. And this applies not just to fighting, but to other types of skills as well, such as horse riding or whatever else you fancy. There's a huge slew of things you can get involved in, because again, it sort of has life sim vibes. The attention to detail, like having your vision obscured when wearing a great helm, adds an extra layer of thought, and all in all, these little pieces alongside the, again, aforementioned pseudo-life sim elements really makes Kingdom Come Deliverance stand out. It's a joy to play, even when it's kicking you to the curb with its learning curve, and I can highly recommend it. I hope you found some new games to check out on sale thanks to this video, and if you did, please don't hesitate to let me know with a like and a comment down below. If you'd like to stay up to date with strategic and tactical games, make sure you subscribe for more reviews, previews, guides, let's plays, and more. And for more winter sale recommendations, check out the video linked on screen right now. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.